The morning started like any other on Today with Jenna and Friends. With smiles, light banter, and the familiar charm of Blake Shelton settling into the guest chair. Jenna Bush Hager greeted him with enthusiasm, teasing about his latest single and his playful rivalry with fellow The Voice judges. But something in the tone shifted quickly. What was supposed to be a fun back and forth suddenly veered into sharp territory when Jenna made a pointed remark about Blake's decision to leave the show and what it supposedly said about his commitment. Two fans. The room tensed. Blake chuckled at first, brushing it off with a joke. But when Jenna pressed, again implying that he was burned out and running from real critique, his easygoing smile dropped. Viewers could feel it through the screen. The casual morning vibe was gone, replaced by a quiet, bristling energy. Blake leaned forward, his tone cooler now, locked with Jenna's. If you think stepping away from something after a decade of giving it your all is running, then maybe you've never had to carry something bigger than a teleprompter, he said, his voice edged but steady. The studio fell silent. Jenna, momentarily stunned, tried to recover with a laugh, but Blake wasn't playing along anymore. I came here to talk music, not get psychoanalyzed on morning TV, he added, standing up. As producers scrambled, behind the scenes, Jenna tried to pivot, calling for a commercial break. But it was too late. Blake had already removed his mic and walked off stage. The camera cut awkwardly, lingering for a second too long on Jenna's frozen smile. The air thick with the kind of tension morning shows aren't built to handle. Backstage. Chaos unfolded as producers debated whether to continue the segment or scrap it entirely. Blake, meanwhile, was already making his way to the exit, brushing off handlers and sidestepping apologies. Word spread quickly within minutes. Social media erupted with clips, hashtags like #Blake storms out and #Today's show drama trending across platforms. Jenna returned to the air flustered but composed, offering a vague explanation that things got a little off script. But viewers weren't buying it. The raw, unscripted tension had already captured the public's attention. Fans and critics alike took sides, some slamming Jenna for provoking the clash, others applauding Blake for refusing to play nice. It wasn't just a TV moment. It had become a cultural flashpoint. One thing was certain, the usually lighthearted Today's show had just delivered its most unforgettable and unscripted moment in years by midday. Clips of the encounter had racked up millions of views. Morning show analysts, media personalities, and even fellow country stars began chiming in. Some argued that Jenna had every right to ask tough questions, framing her comments as part of a journalist's job. Others accused her of crossing a line, turning what should have been a fun interview into a targeted ambush. Blake remained silent, declining interviews and avoiding social media. Those sources close to him said he felt blindsided and disrespected. Jenna, for her part, addressed the incident the following morning, opening the show with a carefully worded statement about respecting every guest's boundaries and navigating live TV with grace. But the apology felt diplomatic, not personal. For many viewers, the damage had been done. What was meant to be another sunny celebrity interview had turned into a public fallout, one that may well define both Jenna's and Blake's daytime TV legacies. As the days passed, talk of the incident didn't fade, it only intensified. Late-night hosts turned it into fodder for punchlines, while news panels debated whether morning shows were losing their charm in favor of viral conflict. Behind the scenes at Today with Jenna and Friends, sources described a tense atmosphere. With producers reevaluating guest prep and on-air dynamics, Blake's team reportedly canceled several upcoming media appearances, preferring to let the noise die down, yet fans remained divided. One camp defended Blake as authentic and unfiltered, while others saw Jenna as a professional simply doing her job. The clash became a case study in the fine line between journalism and provocation in celebrity interviews. In the end, neither side offered a follow-up conversation, leaving viewers to draw their own conclusions. But whether Blake Shelton ever returns to morning television, or if Jenna Bush will adjust her approach, remains to be seen. What's certain is that the fallout left a mark neither of them can ignore. Rumors even began circulating that network, Executives were considering reshuffling the show's format in response to the uproar. Some insiders claimed there were closed-door meetings about softening Jenna's tone moving forward or bringing in additional co-hosts to balance the dynamic. Others whispered about attempts to reach out to Blake for a private apology, though his camp neither confirmed nor denied. Meanwhile, fans flooded both stars' social media accounts with passionate comments, some calling for reconciliation, others demanding accountability. The incident had evolved beyond a single awkward moment. It had tapped into a broader cultural conversation about respect, ego, and entertainment in the age of instant outrage. For Jenna, the challenge was reclaiming the warmth and ease that had once defined her on-air persona. For Blake, the question was whether the stage was still worth the spotlight. The clash may have lasted mere minutes, but its impact rippled far beyond the studio walls, forever changing how audiences see both of them. Asterisk, despite the ongoing storm. Neither Blake Shelton nor Jenna Bush Hager issued a direct statement beyond carefully managed PR blurbs. Instead, both seemed to retreat into their respective worlds. Blake returning to the studio and stage, Jenna doubling down on professionalism in subsequent episodes. Yet something had shifted. The once lighthearted tone of Today with Jenna and Jen Friends carried an unmistakable undercurrent of caution. Every question now felt more measured, every segment subtly less spontaneous. Viewers noticed. Ratings dipped slightly, and longtime fans began posting nostalgic clips of happier interviews, quietly longing for the show's former vibe. For Blake, however, the incident didn't tarnish his reputation. If anything, it bolstered his image. As someone unwilling to play along when pushed too far, he remained quiet, letting the public opinion speak for itself. The message was clear, even in the glossy world of daytime TV. Authenticity, no matter how messy, would always spark the loudest conversations. Asterisk as weeks turned into months. The Blake-Jenna incident remained a benchmark for media analysts dissecting the evolving landscape of celebrity journalism. Panelists on media podcasts debated whether morning shows could survive without conflict, or whether tension was now a feature, not a flaw. Meanwhile, industry insiders began referring to moments of on-air blow-ups as going Shelton a nod, to the singer's unapologetic walk-off that still echoed in entertainment circles. Jenna, for her part, pressed on, determined to steer the narrative back toward warmth and relatability. She leaned into human interest stories, emotionally resonant interviews, and lighter content. Yet the shadow of that explosive clash lingered, just beneath the surface. Producers reportedly took greater control over guest interactions, enforcing tighter scripts and pre-interview boundaries. Still, nothing could fully predict when a spark would turn into fire. The Blake Shelton moment was a reminder that, behind the smiles and teleprompters, real emotions still thrummed and when pushed. Even the most polished stars could erupt without warning. Asterisk, the lasting impact of the altercation wasn't just felt. In television boardrooms or fan forums, it also became a cultural reference point, spawning memes, skits, and think pieces about civility, celebrity, and the authenticity crisis in entertainment. Late-night hosts joked about it with monologues like, "When country gets confrontational, Blake brings the barn to the studio," while TikTok creators reenacted the alleged confrontation with exaggerated southern drawls and dramatic eye rolls. But beneath the viral buzz was a more sobering truth. Audiences had grown tired of scripted politeness, masking real tension. They wanted unscripted moments, even if they were uncomfortable. In a media ecosystem saturated with performative friendliness, Blake Shelton's walk-off offered a raw, unrehearsed crack in the surface a human moment. And for all the controversy it stirred, that humanity struck a chord. It didn't just make headlines, it made people feel. And in today's age of fleeting attention and polished facades, that kind of visceral authenticity is what sticks long after the cameras stop rolling. Asterisk. In the aftermath, both Blake Shelton and Jenna Bush Hager addressed the incident in their own ways, though never in a shared space again. Blake, during a candid backstage interview at a Nashville concert, remarked, "Sometimes folks just rub you wrong, and live TV ain't the place to pretend you're okay with it." Jenna, meanwhile, offered a measured reflection on her show a week later, acknowledging the clash without naming names. "Conversations get heated," she said, "but growth comes from honesty, even the uncomfortable kind." Despite speculation, no formal apology was issued from either party, and producers quietly moved on, booking safer guests with predictable temperaments. Still, the moment lived on in viewer memory and online discourse. Fans continued debating who was in the right, while networks reassessed the delicate line between creating compelling TV and preserving a respectful atmosphere. One thing was clear: the morning show landscape had shifted. What had been intended as lighthearted entertainment had become a battleground for real personalities, and Blake Shelton's stormy exit marked a turning point, one that reminded everyone watching that beneath every smile on screen, there's a real person who just might walk away. As the dust settled and the media cycle churned on, Blake Shelton's team capitalized on the publicity with strategic subtlety. His next single release carried undertones of personal confrontation, leading fans to speculate it was a veiled reference to the incident. Lyrics like "I won't sit pretty for your daytime game, I speak my truth, won't play that shame," only fueled the conversation. The music video, too, featured a symbolic exit from a fake studio set, a wink to those who had followed the saga. Meanwhile, the Today with Jenna and Friends producers tightened their vetting process, making behind-the-scenes changes that aimed to avoid future ambushes. Industry insiders whispered that a new code word had even been instituted for volatile guest energy. But what truly lingered was a change in tone. Celebrity interviews grew a little more cautious, host a little more deferential, and audiences a little more curious about what might happen when carefully constructed smiles finally crack. In the end, the clash between Blake and Jenna became more than a morning show spat. It was a signal that the era of over-polished daytime personas might be giving way to something far more real and far less predictable. Months after the explosive moment, Blake Shelton and Jenna Bush Hager still hadn't crossed paths again, and producers at NBC were reportedly relieved. Rumors of a potential reunion special were quickly shut down, with sources citing irreconcilable tone differences between the two. Jenna subtly referenced the encounter in her new book, hinting at the strain of balancing charm with authenticity. In the public eye, Blake, meanwhile, leaned further into his rebellious streak, turning the incident into part of his narrative on authenticity in the entertainment industry. "People want real," he said during a podcast interview, and "if real means walking out when someone crosses a line, then I'll walk every time." Though no official truce was ever declared, both sides had clearly moved on, albeit in different directions.
What endured, however, was the public's fascination.
Clips of the confrontation continued to rack up millions of views, and the phrase "Shelton-style exit" became internet shorthand for calling it quits with flair. In a media landscape increasingly obsessed with the unscripted, raw edge of celebrity life, their clash became a textbook example of what happens when a polished set meets an unfiltered voice. And the result is too unforgettable to be edited out. In the aftermath, the clash between Blake Shelton and Jenna Bush Hager etched itself into daytime television lore. Not merely for its shock value, but for what it represented: a seismic shift in how celebrities and media personalities navigate on-air dynamics. Jenna, once known solely for her affable charm and southern grace, emerged with a sharper edge, showing audiences she wasn't just a host, but someone willing to stand her ground. Her next few shows were subtly different, more intentional, less lighthearted, and her monologues occasionally hinted at resilience forged in real-time conflict. Blake, meanwhile, saw his popularity soar among fans who appreciated his no-nonsense attitude. Social media erupted in support of his refusal to play nice, and late-night hosts playfully reenacted the standoff, cementing it as a pop culture moment. The fallout even sparked broader discussions in media think pieces about power dynamics between guests and hosts, the fine line between probing and provoking, and whether entertainment should always come with a layer of civility. Long after the headlines faded, the echo of that morning showdown remained a reminder that even under bright studio lights, when tempers flare and truths are spoken unfiltered, the most scripted shows can't contain the human drama that unfolds. What made the Blake Shelton Jenna Bush Hager Confrontation so captivating wasn't just the raised voices or the dramatic walk-off. It was the collision of two public personas that audiences thought they understood. Jenna had built a reputation as the calm center of today, with Hoda and Jenna offering empathy, light banter, and occasional vulnerability. Blake, by contrast, was the unfiltered, country-rooted superstar who made a career out of speaking his mind. When their chemistry combusted on live television, it became clear that neither would back down and viewers couldn't look away. Industry. Insiders later revealed that producers had sensed tension during pre-show prep, but underestimated how quickly it would escalate. It was like gasoline met a spark, one crew member reportedly said. In an age of manufactured drama and carefully crafted PR moments, their clash felt startlingly genuine. It reminded the public that not all on-screen tension is scripted on, that even seasoned media veterans can misjudge the emotional stakes in a conversation. As reruns of the incident continued to go viral, it wasn't just a meme or a clip, it was a cultural flashpoint, dissected by body language experts and media analysts alike. In an era where authenticity is currency, the clash paid dividends for better or worse. Asterisk.